Welcome, boys and girls. Costin here with a discussion about the future of Total War Warhammer 3 with the Lords of the End Times DLC and beyond it. Because Creative Assembly did a live stream, they revealed a good amount of information about the future of the game, what it's going to contain. They did announce Boris Todbringer. They did show off how large the maps in Warhammer 40k Total War are going to be. They talked about siege reworks. They talked about campaign AI prioritization, and many other things. However, alongside that live stream came a forum post that was deleted, and the person who posted did get banned. And I do want to talk about it because it does contain some very interesting information which may or may not be true. Keep in mind that when we do talk about leaked information or forum posts of this nature, it's always going to be subject to change. These kind of things always can change, and we're talking here about a period of not just months, but also potentially years. One of the important things, of course, is further confirmation that Thanquol is going to be coming on alongside the Lords of the End Times, and this has been mentioned in leak after leak after leak after leak with respect to Lords of the End Times. It makes sense. If there is a character that should be coming alongside Nagash, it is going to be Thanquol. Even Creative Assembly basically admitted that people are very interested in hearing about that. So, here is the post on Reddit. I'll provide the link in the description. You can check it out. But if you want better formatting, just take this picture and put it through any kind of AI model. It will do a good job at giving you the information. But I did just that with GPT, and I gotta really like GPT's perspective over here. You really handed me a wall of text that looks like it was written mid-caffeine overdose. Fine, clean up so it doesn't look like conspiracy theorist notepad. Yeah, that's how I've set up GPT to be like that, suffice to say. So anyway, format version, and this, keep in mind, was posted before the live stream happened, so the characters, Boris Todbringer, as we expected, Knights Panther units, which he funds in the lore, so we did get that confirmed. And he's going to be coming with our Ulrich as a legendary hero. Now, our Ulrich is the head of the cult of Ulrich, if I'm not mistaken, with regards to the information of the lore. So, free hint images. Again, this supposedly was posted, according to Reddit, before the live stream happened. And then someone caught it on after the original poster was banned. So, free hint images, Hunting Hound units, R. Ulrich, Celestial, Hurricanum. Those are the free units. Then we're going to have 5 units in the DLC. Hunting Hounds, Knights Panther, Knights of the White Wolf, Teutogen Guard, and Celestial Hurricanum. This is not really surprising. I believe I've seen other content creators talking about this as well. Some people will disagree with this. Some content creators have been mentioning some things that are contrary to this, especially with regards to the legendary hero. But I guess we'll find how that is. Keep in mind, we're still months away from Lords of the End Times coming out as a DLC. The High Priest of Ulrich will be the Lord, and the Priest of Ulrich will be the hero. So I'm guessing these will be similar but different compared to Archlectors as a lore choice. Makes sense if you're going to do an Ulrich DLC, having the High Priest as a lore choice and Priest of Ulrich as a hero. Though it is bizarre from my view that our Ulrich would be then a legendary hero as opposed to being a lord, because he's the head of the cult. I mean, just a weird decision there, right there, if this ends up being correct. I mean, I think it's fine if Creative Assembly were to do legendary lords alongside the lord pack, multiple lords in a pack. Like we have Alistair for the High Elves as a second lord that you can unlock. So I think just this idea that it has to be a legendary hero doesn't necessarily hold up all too well. Just my perspective. And then the remaining End Times legendary lords are going to be Thanquol and Moonclaw. And I did a video about a year ago about how Creative Assembly is going to do based on leaks that came out on Reddit, Moonclaw. There's a reasoning provided in this leak about that, but there's only 2 full-size DLCs left. After that, they will be character packs and free content. By full-size DLCs, that means 5 units, a generic lord and hero, Regiment's Renown, a legendary hero alongside the legendary lord. But there's free DLCs actually coming out, but one of them is a race pack. So if we look at this, you're going to have Grand Cafe Li Diao versus Ogre Kingdoms, Gark Ironskin. Not quite sure how that will work out, but I suppose if you're going to do a Cafean DLC, then it would make sense. Though, it's a bit weird for Creative Assembly to have done these Legendary Lord packs with free lords and then go back to 2. They could do so, but that would certainly feel a bit bizarre. Maybe they are planning something else, and keep in mind that we're talking here about the longer time period. Then the second one, Wood Elves, Naef the Prophetess versus Dark Elves, Tularis Dreadbringer. Makes perfect sense. Tularis is the last big character for the Dark Elves that they could do a Legendary Lord campaign with. So doing that as a campaign would make a huge level of sense. And then finally, Dogs of War Southern Realms. So that would be a race pack. How many lords that would contain, hard to say. Though I would not read this as being set in stone. Keep that in mind, because it's likely not set in stone. The only thing that we're going to get this year is we are going to get Cafe, we're going to get Nagash, and whatever else we might get later on, we don't know. But there's going to be 1 major DLC per year, so we're looking at a 3-year plan. Maybe ending with Dogs of War, or I don't know, Grand Cafe, potentially. Hard to say. Maybe they do the final DLC with Cafe, and the order, again, important. But then there's and 2 character packs annually. So once a year, or once every 10 months or so. I think it would be great if Creative Assembly were to do these packs faster than they have been doing them. Like every 3 months, a character pack, every 6 months, or 8 months at most, doing a major DLC. But that depends on what they're doing with historical content. That depends on what they're doing with Warhammer 40k. We're certainly in a dead period right now, but once you start thinking about Medieval 3, you start thinking about 40k Total War, you have to consider the balancing act that Creative Assembly is going to do with that. And they've been very clear that they are going to keep providing content for Warhammer 3. So just bear in mind, this is just, if this is accurate, and it could very well not be accurate, then this is just the plan right now. And we've seen again and again and again, leaks can be true for the moment they are released, but things are subject to change. Nagash was hinted on for a very long time. Neferata was hinted at for a very long time, like including on Total War Center. Thanquol, same idea with that. But the specifics of what is going to be released always changes. Anyway, remaining character packs are Monkey King, Glotkin, Egrim, Joseph Bugman, Kurt Helborg, and Lupin Krupp. I'm not quite sure who that is. And then you have Valten, Chrome, Red Duke are planned as FLC Legendary Lords. Unknown timing with regards to that. But we'll find out when they decide to do it. But yeah, Chrome for Warriors of Chaos or Norska potentially. I think it would make more sense for Norska would be suitable. Valten for the Empire would be very damn suitable, and I think having Sigmar Reborn as a campaign available to people who have Warhammer 3 would make a whole lot of sense. And then, of course, the Red Duke, who's already in the game, but just not playable. He needs unique campaign mechanics, but they could make him. And then the Empire is going to get Wizard Lords, for people that have been asking about that, but they are tied to Dogs of War Southern Realms DLC, meaning you'll need that DLC to use them for the Empire. Kislev will receive an artillery FLC unit at some point. Certainly Creative Assembly has not been shy about doing free content in terms of units. Like, that's how they added the Orc Spear Boys, for instance, and some other things. And then the original plans were Boris Todbringer was going to be an FLC lord for Lords of the End Times, which makes sense. Valten was supposed to be the DLC Legendary Lord. Bakshiva was meant to be the 4th Legendary Lord instead of Moonclaw. And this was back when Neferata was planned as a character pack. So remember, Creative Assembly has stated directly that they wanted to do Neferata as a character pack. And then they decided to do her as a free Legendary Lord. Those plans have changed. Now, according to this leak, plans changed due to the new Beastman content tied to the Old World tabletop. So they're using this, they're pushing for Moonclaw, Games Workshop is pushing for Moonclaw and Lords of the End Times, because Games Workshop, they requested that they're pushing Creative Assembly to do that for their own marketing reasons. And then, yeah, GPT ends this post, it's like, now that reads like a human wrote it instead of someone typing it with one eye open at 3 a.m. But these are the current plans as they've been leaked. How much of this do I believe is actually true? This is the big question. Do I believe that in terms of the Ulrich content it makes sense? Yes. I mean, and it's also not the first time, by the way, that Knights Panther, Knights of the White Wolf, Teutogen Guard have been hinted at. Celestial Hurricanum is actually the one that's been surprising. But remember, there was this leak from a Chinese source which was pretty accurate on a lot of levels about what was going to be in Tides of Torment, for instance. Like, it was going to be Slanesh, it was going to be, it was going to be Norska, all that kind of stuff with regards to it. So we'll find out exactly what is coming with here. Like, the further down this list you go, the more uncertain it becomes. And not because it's necessarily false, but rather because, again, things are subject to change. So bear that aspect in mind as you consider whether or not Creative Assembly would do this. But I have found from my experience that when you see things like these as leaks, treat them with a huge grain of salt, but don't be surprised if at least some of them, partially to some extent or another, come true. I'm not quite sure who's Naef the Prophet is. I know who Tolaris is. I think it makes sense to do another Wood Elf DLC so they can really update that race to Warhammer free standards. And, doing a Nurgle pack to update Nurgle Monkey King as a standalone makes sense after they added Li Biao. Perfect sense. Joseph Buckman, Egrim has been asked for, a chance to update scene. Joseph Buckman, makes huge level of sense, I would dare say, for the dwarves. He's one of the more important, in some ways, characters for dwarves, though more of a background character than, someone who's driving the story. But yeah, I do believe a lot of these things make huge sense right now. But in a year from now, 2 years from now, or 3 years from now, depending on the release cadence, it might not look exactly like this. That is all I had to say. Costin here, signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and I'll see you boys and girls on the next one.